both you and I think, are in agreement that we would bring Rodgers back. I felt this way a while ago, so obviously the way that he finished the season strong, I'd bring him back. But that directly, to me, correlates with who I want to be hired as the head coach. I think you could look at this Jet situation two totally different ways. Bring back Rodgers with a veteran established head coach and try to win now while also build toward the future. Or move on from Aaron Rodgers, and then the Jets should be in play just like the Giants trying to find a franchise quarterback.
That's what I said to you yesterday. Like, it's very unique here, and I don't know which way they're going to go because I don't really know who they're going to hire yet. But, unlike when they hired Gase and unlike when they hired Robert Saleh, the talent base is obviously far more elevated than it was back then. So if you want to, either bring Rodgers back or if you don't want to deal with that and you want to bring in a Kirk Cousins, not that I would, but somebody like that as a Band-Aid bridge to maybe chase a wild card, be competitive short term, that's a viable route. And then the other route is, and I said this yesterday as well, based on some of these tough economic decisions the Jets now have to make with Sauce, who just became eligible for a $100 million extension, $72 million guaranteed, which will make him the highest paid corner in all of football. Garrett Wilson. There's a lot of things here. So to me, it really boils down to 3 points. Number one, are the Jets going to go short term or long term? Number two, do you still believe Aaron Rodgers can play? You and I both do. And if you don't, what's the better option?
Well, right. So that was going to be my thing. So let's just say that the Jets are going to – either way, they're going to need a quarterback next year, right? And if you decide to go a future franchise quarterback, in all likelihood, the best way, regardless of who the head coach is not to throw that rookie to the wolves. So either way, it seems to me the Jets are going to need the quote-unquote stopgap quarterback, which then brings me back to Rodgers. Why wouldn't you keep Rodgers in the building if you need a stopgap quarterback anyway? Like Kirk Cousins, what are you kidding me? And you're right, like those are the names that we're talking about. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, who knows who's potentially going to shake loose here. Maybe there's a better option, a younger option that has the potential to, let's just say Kyler Murray, for example.
Or Justin Fields.
Whatever,
maybe.
Justin Fields. Maybe
lesser than Kyle, yeah.
Maybe he's more appealing. I would still rather have Rodgers in that scenario, but like why? And I think that there was, and you and I had this debate, and there was this feeling like, well, Rodgers is toxic and bad for the team. And
we don't think that.
Well, why then what would be the reason to move on from Aaron Rodgers? If you're going to need a quarterback anyway, and you're not going to get, most likely you're not going to get a top rookie, and even if you did, I don't think the Jets are structured to start that rookie right away. So why wouldn't Aaron Rodgers be a no-brainer to come back?
He would be if it was for me. I think by every objective measurement, Aaron Rodgers has proven that he can still play. I don't know if everybody realizes this. Aaron Rodgers, not to get too wrapped up at the stats, but they are what they are. Aaron Rodgers was 8th in yards and 7th in touchdowns. Those are facts. And that was with, a defense that never gave him a short field and, a defense that didn't get off the field enough, so he didn't possess the ball enough, and they didn't really, the coaching is incredibly subpar and all the penalties. Like, not that he was perfect. He's not quite the same guy. You can see that when he moves out of the pocket, he's a little quicker to release it. And when you do that, you throw a couple of balls at the ankles. We saw that 2 weeks ago in Buffalo with the tight end, Yamboa.
Not as accurate, not as mobile.
No, he's not quite as accurate, but he's better than anything that I've seen under center for the Jets in well over, certainly since the one good Fitzpatrick year. And before that, going back to who the hell knows when. Yeah, Pennington, Brett Favre for a year with Mangini. So I think the only reason, South, to answer you more directly, why the Jets, whomever the new coach is, and Woody's obviously going to have influence, even though we said he's not. He's going to let the coach make the decision on Rodgers. I don't buy that entirely. I don't. Is number one, Rodgers doesn't want him back because there's a personal thing there, and there could be.
Yeah.
Okay, number one. Or number two, if Woody really does keep his beak out of this and allows the coach to make the decision, the coach wants to start where he's the unquestioned alpha. It is his locker room. It is his meeting room, and nobody else is going to, I guess, get in the way of his shadow, so to speak, as he tries to create a winning culture.
Which is exactly why I want an established head coach. And I think a lot of the guys that are on that list, even though Pete Carroll wasn't on the list, and by the way, the Bears are going to be interviewing Pete Carroll.
I saw that.
He should be in play, even though Gruden's not on that list. Like, I think Brian Flores, I don't care. Brian Flores is going to walk into a situation, regardless of who's here, and say, this is my house now. Like, I would think that's the type of mentality. Rex, I mean, I know we don't want Rex, but Rex is going to walk in and say, this is my house. And that is what any good candidate would be. I don't know Aaron Glenn enough about him. Is he going to come in here and as a first-time head coach opportunity placate Aaron Rodgers or bow down to Rodgers? I would hope not. I think anybody that's worth salt is going to come in here and say, look, this is my team now. Aaron, I love you. I want you to be the quarterback, but you got to do things this way. And that's just the right way to do it. Like, our whole argument with Rodgers is we want him to be the quarterback, but not under his, rules and who he wants in here. He's got to be the quarterback of the New York Jets, not the leader as far as the face of the franchise and determining all the moves that the organization makes.
And this is a common misconception about who Rodgers is. I think he'd be fine with that. Like, there's this thought that Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be able to acquiesce to, a new staff or a new level of authority or a new playbook where they don't run what he ran in Green Bay, which, as I think many of us know, schematically is a bit antiquated. You got to start getting some shifts and some motion. You got to start throwing some eye candy on the board to get those opposing defenses thinking and moving. And then you can really take advantage of whether it's Rodgers or somebody else. They just can't run the same offense. But this thought that Aaron Rodgers is in his own mind above that, I think is so false and patently offensive, quite frankly, to Aaron Rodgers. Like, how those conclusions are drawn when, if you didn't watch the Enigma series, or if you but you heard Randall Cobb speak over the years and others, like people who have played with Aaron Rodgers almost to a man, Bakhtiari, like guys who are incredibly respected and incredibly accomplished. They're like, this guy's a great teammate. Yeah, he's gonna bite your ass if you're not in the right spot. Good,
as he should.
So did Tom Brady. So did Peyton Manning. So did the great ones.
He also said he has no problem being a mentor. He knows where he's at in his career. Rodgers still wants to play again. You could tell that. I think he hopes that maybe the Jets want him back, but also he's got to make that decision too. Like, if I'm Aaron Rodgers and I see the way that I've been treated here in New York, potentially with Woody and some of the stuff that's gone on, maybe he wants to be here ideally, but he knows things need to change to have success, or maybe how some of the teammates have responded to the way he operates. Like, if I'm Rodgers too, the same way we say about a head coach wants to come in here and say, hey, it's my way or the highway. Well, if I'm Rodgers, I say, you know what? Well, I'm the quarterback who's won 4 MVPs. I've won a Super Bowl, and that's fine. You're the head coach, and I will abide by what you say and fall on plates and all that stuff, but I got to be the leader of this team on the field because I know what it takes, and here's what I need to have success. You want that. Aaron Rodgers is an asset. To me, the worst thing the Jets could do, and this is nothing new, I've been saying this all year long, really for the last several weeks when it was in debate what Rodgers was going to say. He is an asset to, what we're going to do with Rodgers. He's an asset to an organization. Even though he's slowed down, even though he's not the same quarterback that he once was, he still is by far the best option for the New York Jets. Finding a quarterback, whether it's a stopgap or a franchise quarterback, is the hardest thing to do in the NFL. The Jets actually have that. Even at his age, they have that. Don't screw that up.
My only fear is this, and I'm with you. My only fear is that, like, right now, the Jets organizationally aren't open-minded to bringing him back. Like,
I know.
Woody's already made a decision. I know what he said the other day, that he's going to let the coach make the decision, and I hope I'm wrong on this.
Do you think it was for football reasons?
I don't. You mean like the politics or other stuff?
Well, I
don't know. I think anything's possible.
Right, but based on football reasons, give me the better option. And we don't.
I don't think there is one right now. No, I can't identify him yet.
Well, let me ask you this one: Sam Darnold. Let's say he shakes.
I'll take Rodgers.
Yeah, me too.
I'd rather have Rodgers at his salary, and I know who he is.
Bingo.
Rather than Darnold at an elevated salary based on a year that probably isn't really commensurate with who he is.
That's exactly my point. And I know, Darnold with the Jets is a whole different element.
Yeah, but I'd say that even Darnold for the Giants,
correct.
I'd say the same thing.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Point is, you're potentially significantly overpaying based off of 1 year.
Yeah.
And you even saw some signs Sunday night.
I know you did.
Instead of just sticking with Rodgers, who you know is not going to be intimidated by New York.
Correct.
The only question, like Pete Carroll, is the age. Certain things are not, the same as they used to be because of his age, but quarterback play, I'd much rather have Rodgers than Darnold or Fields or Cousins or any of these other options that are going to be there for the Jets. You can still draft a young quarterback and have him sit and learn from Rodgers. That was the best plan that they had 3 years ago. It didn't work out for multiple reasons. I would not get away from that now.
Listen, and I don't want to dilute it now because the numbers are, they're mentally paralyzing. Nobody wants to get numbers spit at them like an Uzi at 10, 11 in the morning, so
right.
I won't do that. But understand this. For the Jets to get away from Rodgers this year, like if he wants to keep playing and he doesn't willingly, even if he does retire, there's a cap hit. But if like they were to trade him or flat out release him, post-Jet June 1 would be a bit of a different designation. But again, I don't want to get in the weeds on that. Yeah. It would be so punitive that you would almost have to do a rebuild because you wouldn't be able to do really anything else other than roll it back if Rodgers wants to play, with Adams and maybe with one more lineman, one defensive lineman who could stop, offensive lineman, one defensive lineman who could stop the run, a little tweak here. Maybe the new coach comes in, he runs a bit of a different defense based on what he has, blah, blah, blah. I'll let them figure it out. But I believe, and I think you do as well, that the Jets are a lot closer to at least being a viable wild card team than they do to the first pick in the draft. So why not cash in during that small window? Because I also don't think that if you do that, it's going to compromise the Jets. Like the short-sighted approach very rarely works, but I think I don't think this is short-sighted. I think it's reacting to what you have while also kind of maintaining a decent chance to be good down the road.
Bingo. It's a combination of both.
Yeah.
And for me, it is either Rodgers or rebuild. If you're not going to bring him back, there aren't any good options that are going to help you win next year, so then you might as well rebuild. And if you need to go Aaron Glenn again and you think he's the best hire, then so be it, meaning like go first-time head coach.
Yeah. And by the way, if it is Rex, you don't want to rebuild with a young quarterback. Those things need to be considered as well. Like, so if they do decide to go rebuild,
if it's Rex, to me, it's even more got to be Rodgers.
Even though Rex has said he doesn't want Rodgers, but I think that would work out, and I think that they'd be on the same page. If I don't know, by the way, Rex said he doesn't want Rodgers. I don't know if Rodgers wants to deal with Rex, quite frankly. Let's call it the way it is, Rex.
Right.
I mean, you can say whatever you want. In terms of the pantheon of NFL greatness, you're looking up at Rodgers, not the other way around. Let's keep it real. But I think if it is a rebuild, I think Rex is the even worse hire than if it's not. You can't surround him with a young quarterback. Why would you do that?
Agreed 100%. BT and Sal on the Fan. Our friends at Town Fair Tire remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Stuart is in Brooklyn. What's up, Stuart?
Good morning, Sal. Happy New Year.
Stuart, how are you? Stuart, of course, a familiar caller on the overnight. What's going on, Stuart?
What's going on? I don't know. I don't know if I want to revisit with Rex. I mean, he had the feet showing up in the ads on TV with all the fish stories, he's just a nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger as the star. I do believe that.
What about Rodgers, Stuart?
I would bring him back for one more year because he played well the last 4 or 5 weeks. And if you keep him, you're going to have Devontae Adams there. And I think they should get more of Garrett Wilson on the same page because that guy is a star receiver. He has good moves.
I think that's a great point, Stuart, and thank you for the call. Keep him on hold. I want to talk to Stuart Hoff if you can. I'll talk to him off the air. I haven't talked to him in a while. Make sure he's doing okay. That's a great point, too, BT, with Garrett Wilson moving forward. Who do you think is best for Garrett Wilson? And I know that there seemed to be a little bit of a riff. I'm not even buying that. I think Garrett Wilson's got to get over himself a little bit in this regard and maybe be more open to getting taught and listening and learning from Rodgers / Devontae Adams. But I still believe Rodgers is the best thing for Garrett Wilson. Be careful what you wish for. You want Rodgers out of here, and then you're going to get some quarterback in there that's not as good as Aaron Rodgers, then what?
Well, listen, I think Garrett Wilson, early on I was a little disappointed with the start to the season. I think Garrett Wilson had a really, really good, not great, really good season. I want to keep him. I do think it's been a bit overblown, him and the Rodgers stuff. You and I share that thought, but let's not forget one thing that Garrett Wilson has proven. He's able to get his numbers even without Aaron Rodgers. He got numbers with Mike White and Zach Wilson and basically quarterback trash, too. That's 3 straight years where he's been over 1,000 yards. Now, the targets obviously dropped this year once Devontae came. That's been well chronicled. We talked about that.
Which is a normal thing.
Exactly. I mean, come on, dude. It's like, Alvin Iverson showed up and there's Michael Jordan. Yeah, I know Iverson. I know you want to take a lot of shots, but MJ's getting 25 shots as well. What are you kidding me?
When T. Higgins came back healthy, Jamar Chase numbers started to dip a little bit as far as the touchdowns go.
Correct. I think that's across the board.
It's not a knock on Chase. It's just a normal thing. You bring in another receiver, it's going to help the team.
Yeah, now visually, I mean, even not knowing the exact play that they called, but there were a few times where Rodgers was forced into his boy. Yeah, I think we can all see that, and I can see why that would be a little frustrating for Garrett Wilson. But I reiterate, Garrett Wilson's a guy that I'm trying to keep in the building, not kick out.
Agreed. Victor is in Harlem. What's up, Victor?
Hey, Vic.
Hey, guys, thanks for taking my call.
You got it, buddy.
BT.
Yes.
I just, first off, want to respectfully disagree with you on Rodgers.
Okay.
being humble enough to taking in a new regime and, listening to someone above him and all that. Listen, I watched Enigma too, and I'll be honest, growing up, Aaron Rodgers was my favorite quarterback to watch, and then, his off-the-field stuff kind of turned me off and all that. And I just want to remind you guys, not to beat a dead horse, but everything that he said throughout his press conferences, and I know in Enigma he's saying one thing, but when it's a documentary, it's a lot easier to prepare what you're going to say versus a press conference where spur of the moment, and you have him throwing guys under the bus. You have him questioning the owners, the coaches, and everything like that. So my belief is I'm very, very pessimistic that this season was bad enough that Rodgers is all of a sudden going to become this humble guy, and that someone else or some organization tell him what to do. And my final question, and then I'll leave it be. Do you think that these conversations are going on in the interview process? And do you think
they have to be fake? Oh, my God,
okay,
Victor. Oh, my goodness. And thanks for the call. If they're not, then, just call it a wrap. There is no chance that the Jets ever find their way out of this wilderness. That's got to be one of the biggest things on the table. Because obviously when you have these interviews, no matter who it is.
First question or one of them.
Oh, my God. But once you get past, the philosophies and, who would you bring aboard as the staff and what do you think of some of our players and, the general questions that are asked there, the alignment or potential alignment with Aaron Rodgers has to be central, and I guarantee that there's a capologist in the room, and they'll go through the dead money charge and the things I hit before, the post-June 1 release, and they'll give you all the different variables, like, hey, if you want to do this, this is where we're at. If we want to do this, if he retires, here we are. Everything's got to be on the table. There's no leaving this meeting and concealing a card or two in your back pocket I didn't show him the Rodgers card. There's no, if I'm running the show, I need an answer within 10 minutes. I got to know what you think of Rodgers.
One thing on that, though, the hiring process is a little, I don't want to say awkward, but it's just, I guess, not unique because, or is unique in certain ways, because wouldn't you have ownership and his right-hand man, who we don't trust, right, hire the general manager and then let the general manager make the rest of the decisions?
Generally, that's the conventional route.
So as you guys were just talking and we're listening here and having the conversation, I'm starting to think in my mind, well, who the hell is making these decisions? Because it's not the general manager, because they don't have a general manager. This is Woody and his team, which we just don't trust, not just you and I think in general, Jets fans don't trust Woody and his hierarchy, but they're the ones who are going through all these interview processes with all the potential GM candidates, all the potential head coach candidates, where really the best way would be to hire the general manager first. Now you let him at least have a big say in what he wants from the head coach, and then determine what you want together from the quarterback. That would be the right way to do it.
It would be, and that's why when it was, Vrabel before they fired Mayo, the Patriots, and I would imagine he'll be the Patriots head coach in a day or two, they've got to just go through the charade of the Rooney Rule and pretend they're going to actually do that seriously, and then they'll hire Mike Vrabel. If it was Vrabel, then you give Vrabel a little say at the table, because he's, in my opinion, he's that kind of coach. Right. You're not going to say to Aaron Glenn, who do you want the GM to be?
Either way, same thing. Let's just say it was Pete Carroll. I'm fine with that. I want a football guy, though, hiring the other football guy. I don't want Woody and his guys.
Well, what's his name? It's escaping me, right? Boomer was saying it this morning. Geez, he's been in the building he was a consultant.
Phil Savage?
My God. Yeah, well, Phil Savage is a respected football guy. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the choice that I would make for the GM, but it's not like it's Woody, the capologist, and whomever's being interviewed. He's got a good football. He ran the Senior Bowl for decades.
Fine.
He knows talent. He knows he's well connected.
Yeah, that's fine.
He's a pretty reputable guy.
So, but then think about this. He's the top football voice right now in the Jets organization, and is going to be making these crucial decisions on who's going to be the next head coach and general manager.
I don't really have a big issue with that, because he was more of the
then why not just make him the general manager?
They might. No, they honestly might. But he was more had more of the advisory role. And then when Douglas got fired, then they brought him more front and center day-to-day operations.
Yeah,
Savage is actually, listen, I'm not saying that he's who's an amazing, think of the best general manager out there. I'm not saying he's that, but he's certainly a competent, well-connected football man. I trust his instincts.
And I would assume that the hiring firm is also going to be, I would think.
No doubt.
Okay, so at least they're a part of it. Still, it's just a weird thing. Also, just because Rodgers, you could interpret Rodgers throwing his teammates under the bus in a press conference, post-game press conference, or you could interpret it as saying he's holding guys accountable. For me, I think Rodgers is holding guys accountable, including himself, as opposed to throwing them under the bus. We'll get back to your calls on the other side. We've got to get some baseball in here as well. We'll do that at 11 o'clock. 888-808-1019. Just getting started. BT and Sal on the Fan.